Psychology to Sleep To, a comprehensive journey through the mind into restful sleep. Section 1. Introduction and Welcome. Welcome. If you're hearing these words, you've made a conscious choice to rest, to allow yourself this time for restoration and peace. There's something profoundly important about that decision, and I want you to know that simply by being here, you're already taking care of yourself in a meaningful way. Tonight, we're going to explore the fascinating intersection of psychology and sleep, not as an academic exercise, but as a gentle journey through the landscape of your mind. Psychology to Sleep To isn't about studying the mind. It's about allowing psychological principles to guide you naturally, effortlessly, into the restful sleep your body and mind are already seeking. You don't need to concentrate too hard on what I'm saying. In fact, the less effort you put into following along, the better. Your conscious mind can listen, or it can wander. Both are perfectly fine. Your unconscious mind, the deeper part of you that regulates your breathing, your heartbeat, and yes, your sleep, is already attuned to what it needs. It's already beginning the process of unwinding, of letting go, of preparing for the rest that comes so naturally when we simply allow it. The human mind is remarkable in its complexity, yet there's a beautiful simplicity in how it seeks balance and restoration. Throughout our waking hours, we accumulate experiences, process information, navigate emotions, and maintain countless cognitive functions that keep us engaged with the world. But there comes a time, and that time is now, when the mind needs to release its grip on all that activity. Sleep is the mind's way of returning to equilibrium, of processing and integrating the day's experiences, of healing and restoring itself. What we'll explore together isn't a list of techniques you need to memorize or instructions you must follow precisely. Instead, think of this as a companion for your mind as it does what it already knows how to do. Psychology has revealed so much about how our minds work, and one of the most comforting discoveries is that sleep is a natural, automatic process. Your body already knows how to sleep. Your mind already has the blueprint. Our journey is simply about removing the obstacles, quieting the noise, and allowing what wants to happen naturally. Over the next hours, because yes, we have all the time you need, we'll move through various psychological landscapes. We'll explore the science of how sleep works, not to educate you in a wakeful way, but to help your conscious mind feel safe in surrendering control. We'll look at the relationship between thoughts and rest, between the day's activities and the night's restoration. We'll journey through your nervous system, understanding how it shifts from activation to relaxation, from doing to being. Some of what you hear might resonate deeply. Some might wash over you like gentle waves. Some might fade into the background as sleep begins to claim you. All of these responses are exactly right. There's no wrong way to experience this journey. If you fall asleep in the first few minutes, that's perfect. If you find yourself listening for an hour before sleep arrives, that's equally perfect. Your mind and body have their own wisdom about timing, and we're going to trust that wisdom completely. Psychology teaches us about the power of expectation, of belief, of the stories we tell ourselves. Tonight, the story is simple. You are safe, you are allowed to rest, and sleep will come when it's ready. Not because you're forcing it, not because you're trying hard, but because that's what naturally happens when we create the right conditions. And the right conditions aren't about perfection. They're about acceptance, allowance, and a gentle letting go. As we move forward, you might notice your breathing changing, becoming slower and deeper. You might notice areas of tension in your body beginning to soften. You might notice your thoughts becoming more dreamlike, less linear, more fluid. Or you might not notice any of these things because noticing requires a kind of attention that is counterproductive to sleep. Either way is fine. The process unfolds whether you observe it or not. The psychology of sleep is ultimately the psychology of trust. Trust in your body's innate wisdom. Trust in the natural rhythms that have governed human sleep for millennia. Trust that you don't need to control or manage this process. You simply need to allow it. And allowing is perhaps the easiest thing in the world because it requires nothing from you except a willingness to stop trying. So settle in whatever position feels most comfortable. You don't need to move into some perfect sleep position right now. Let your body make whatever adjustments it wants to make when it wants to make them. Your body is quite intelligent about finding comfort, and it will guide you naturally toward positions that promote rest and relaxation. This journey we're taking together through psychology and sleep, it's both deeply scientific and profoundly simple. We'll touch on neuroscience and neurochemistry, on cognitive psychology and emotional regulation, on memory and consciousness. But we'll explore these topics not as an intellectual exercise, but as a lullaby of understanding, as a gentle backdrop to your mind's natural journey into sleep. You're safe here. You're allowed to let go. Everything that needed to be done today has been done, or can wait for tomorrow. This time, right now, belongs entirely to rest. And in giving yourself permission to truly rest, without guilt or reservation, you're honoring one of your mind's most fundamental needs. Let's begin this journey together, exploring the psychology of sleep not as distant observers, but as willing participants in the natural miracle of rest and restoration. Understanding rest. Sleep is one of the most universal human experiences, and yet it remains wonderfully mysterious in many ways. From a psychological perspective, sleep isn't simply the absence of wakefulness. It's an active, dynamic process that serves essential functions for both mind and body. Understanding this, even in a gentle peripheral way, can help the conscious mind feel comfortable releasing its grip on wakefulness. The human sleep cycle operates in rhythms, moving through distinct stages that serve different purposes. These stages aren't random. They're orchestrated by some of the most ancient parts of your brain, parts that have been perfecting the art of sleep for millions of years. You don't need to manage these stages or even think about them. They happen automatically, guided by biological wisdom far older than conscious thought. When we begin to fall asleep, we enter what's called stage 1 of non-REM sleep. This is a transitional period, a kind of twilight zone between waking and sleeping. It typically lasts only a few minutes, though it can feel longer or shorter depending on your subjective experience. During this stage, your brain waves begin to slow down from the alert beta waves of wakefulness into the gentler theta waves. Your muscles start to relax, though you might occasionally experience those sudden muscle jerks called hypnic jerks. These are completely normal and harmless, just your nervous system's way of letting go of tension.
Some people experience vivid sensory experiences during this stage, perhaps feeling like they're falling or seeing flashes of light or geometric patterns. These are called hypnagogic hallucinations, and they're a sign that your conscious mind is beginning to release its hold on reality testing, allowing the more dreamlike aspects of consciousness to emerge. There's something rather poetic about this threshold space, where you're not quite awake and not quite asleep, where the boundaries of reality become soft and permeable. As sleep deepens, you enter stage 2, which makes up the largest portion of your sleep cycle. This is where your body temperature begins to drop, your heart rate slows, and your brain produces distinctive patterns called sleep spindles and K-complexes. These brain patterns are fascinating. They're thought to play a role in memory consolidation, in helping your brain process and store the information and experiences of the day. But you don't need to create them consciously. Your brain knows exactly what to do. From a psychological standpoint, stage 2 sleep represents a significant letting go of environmental awareness. The external world begins to fade into the background. Sounds that might have captured your attention while awake now pass through your awareness without demanding response. Your brain has begun the process of disconnecting from sensory input, turning inward to focus on restoration and processing. Then comes the deepest sleep, stages 3 and 4, often called slow wave sleep or delta sleep. This is the most restorative stage of sleep, when your brain produces large, slow delta waves. This is when growth hormone is released, when tissues are repaired, when the immune system is strengthened. From a psychological perspective, this deep sleep is essential for emotional regulation and for clearing out the metabolic waste products that accumulate in the brain during waking hours. Interestingly, it's very difficult to wake someone from deep sleep, and if they are woken, they often feel disoriented and groggy. This grogginess is called sleep inertia, and it's a sign of how profoundly disconnected from waking consciousness the brain becomes during this stage. The mind has traveled very far from the shores of wakefulness, deep into the restorative waters of sleep. And then there's REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, where most of our vivid dreaming occurs. During REM sleep, your brain becomes highly active in some ways, almost as active as during waking, yet your body is essentially paralyzed to prevent you from acting out your dreams. This combination of mental activation and physical stillness creates the perfect conditions for the psychological work of dreaming, for processing emotions, for making creative connections, for integrating memories. These cycles, from light sleep to deep sleep to REM and back again, repeat throughout the night, with each complete cycle lasting about 90 to 110 minutes. As the night progresses, you spend less time in deep sleep and more time in REM sleep, which is why your dreams often feel more vivid and memorable in the early morning hours. But here's what's psychologically important about understanding these stages. You don't need to consciously move through them. You don't need to think, now I'm entering stage 2, or I should be reaching deep sleep soon. Your brain has been orchestrating these transitions since before you were born, practicing them every single night of your life. This process is so deeply automatic that trying to control it would be like trying to consciously direct the beating of your heart, not only unnecessary, but actually counterproductive. The psychology of sleep also involves understanding what promotes and what inhibits this natural process. One of the most significant psychological factors affecting sleep is what researchers call cognitive arousal, essentially an overactive mind. When our thoughts are racing, when we're mentally reviewing the day's events, planning tomorrow's activities, or worrying about problems, we're maintaining a level of mental activation that's incompatible with sleep onset. This is why so many traditional sleep aids focus on quieting the mind, not through force or suppression, but through gentle redirection and release. When we understand that thoughts are just mental events, no more substantial than clouds passing through the sky, we can begin to develop a different relationship with them, one that doesn't require us to engage with every thought that arises. The emotional dimension of sleep psychology is equally important. Emotions and sleep have a bidirectional relationship. Our emotional state affects our sleep, and our sleep quality affects our emotional state. Anxiety and stress activate the sympathetic nervous system, our fight or flight response, which is fundamentally incompatible with the parasympathetic activation necessary for sleep. Conversely, positive emotions and a sense of safety and security facilitate the nervous system shift that allows sleep to occur. This is why the psychological experience of feeling safe is so crucial for good sleep. When we feel threatened, uncertain, or unsafe, whether the threat is physical, emotional, or existential, our nervous system remains on alert. It's an evolutionary adaptation that once kept our ancestors alive. But in the modern world, where threats are rarely physical and immediate, this alertness can persist inappropriately, interfering with rest. Creating a sense of psychological safety for sleep involves several elements. It includes the physical environment, a comfortable, quiet, dark space that signals to the brain that this is a place for rest. It includes routine and predictability, which help the brain anticipate and prepare for sleep. And it includes the internal environment, cultivating thoughts and emotions that are compatible with rest, that allow the nervous system to stand down from alert status. One fascinating aspect of sleep psychology is the role of belief and expectation. If we believe we're not good at sleeping, if we approach bedtime with anxiety about whether we'll be able to fall asleep, we create a self-fulfilling prophecy. The anxiety itself becomes a form of arousal that inhibits sleep. This is part of what makes insomnia so challenging. It can create a cycle where worry about sleep prevents sleep, which creates more worry. The solution isn't to force ourselves to believe we'll sleep well, which is just another form of trying and controlling. Instead, it's about developing what psychologists call equanimity, a balanced, accepting attitude towards whatever happens. If sleep comes quickly, wonderful. If it takes longer, that's okay too. The body is resting even when the mind hasn't quite fallen asleep yet, and releasing the pressure to sleep correctly or on schedule is often what allows sleep to finally arrive. Understanding the psychology of sleep also means recognizing that sleep needs and patterns vary from person to person. Some people are naturally early risers, others night owls. Some need 9 hours of sleep to feel rested, others function well on 7. These differences aren't flaws or failures, they're variations in individual circadian rhythms and sleep architecture. Accepting your own unique sleep needs rather than comparing yourself to some ideal standard is an important part of sleep psychology. As you lie here now, your body is already engaging in the early stages of the sleep process, even if you're still aware and listening. Your heart rate is likely slowing, your breathing deepening, your muscles releasing tension. Your brain is beginning to produce the chemical changes that facilitate sleep. Melatonin increasing, cortisol decreasing, adenosine accumulating. These processes don't require your conscious management. They're already in motion, guided by the deep wisdom of your nervous system.
The neuroscience of relaxation. Deep beneath conscious awareness, a symphony of neurochemical and neurological processes orchestrates the transition from wakefulness to sleep. Understanding these processes, even in a gentle, non-technical way, can help the conscious mind feel safe in surrendering to sleep's natural progression. The brain knows exactly what to do. It's been refining this process for millions of years of human evolution. At the heart of relaxation and sleep onset is the autonomic nervous system, which operates largely outside of conscious control. This system has two main branches:
the sympathetic nervous system, which activates our fight or flight responses, and the parasympathetic nervous system, which governs rest and digest functions. Sleep requires a shift from sympathetic to parasympathetic dominance, and this shift happens through a cascade of neurological changes. The parasympathetic nervous system is beautifully designed for rest and restoration. When it activates, your heart rate naturally slows down, becoming more regular and rhythmic. Your breathing deepens and slows, requiring less effort. Your blood pressure decreases, allowing your cardiovascular system to rest. Digestive processes, which are inhibited during stress, resume their normal functioning. Your muscles release tension, letting go of the readiness for action that characterizes sympathetic activation. All of this happens automatically, without any conscious direction. But understanding that it's happening, trusting this natural process, can help ease any anxiety about whether relaxation is occurring. Right now, as you rest here, your parasympathetic nervous system is likely already beginning its work, even if you're still aware and awake. The very act of lying down, closing your eyes, and intending to rest signals to your nervous system that it's safe to begin the transition toward sleep. One of the key players in this neurological symphony is the vagus nerve, the longest cranial nerve in the body. This wandering nerve extends from the brainstem down through the chest and into the abdomen, connecting the brain with major organs, including the heart, lungs, and digestive system. The vagus nerve is the primary pathway through which the parasympathetic nervous system exerts its calming influence. When vagal tone is high, meaning the vagus nerve is highly active, you experience a sense of calm and well-being. Your heart rate variability increases, which is actually a sign of health and flexibility in the autonomic nervous system. Your ability to regulate emotions improves, and importantly, you're more able to relax and fall asleep. The vagus nerve is so important to relaxation that various practices like slow breathing, meditation, and even certain types of massage are thought to work partly through increasing vagal tone. As relaxation deepens and sleep approaches, your brain begins to produce different patterns of electrical activity. During alert wakefulness, your brain generates beta waves, relatively fast, irregular electrical oscillations. But as you begin to relax, these shift toward alpha waves, slower, more regular patterns associated with calm, relaxed wakefulness. As drowsiness increases, theta waves emerge, even slower rhythms that characterize light sleep and deep relaxation. You don't need to create these brain waves intentionally. They emerge naturally as your brain shifts from active processing to rest. But it's reassuring to know that these changes are already underway, that your brain is already following its ancient blueprint for transitioning into sleep. The electrochemical activity of billions of neurons is gradually synchronizing, moving from the diverse, independent firing patterns of wakefulness toward the more coordinated patterns of sleep. The neurochemistry of relaxation is equally fascinating. During waking hours, several neurotransmitters keep us alert and focused. Norepinephrine promotes attention and arousal. Dopamine supports motivation and reward-seeking behavior. Histamine maintains wakefulness. But as the day progresses, and especially as evening arrives, the balance of neurotransmitters shifts. Adenosine, a chemical that accumulates in the brain during waking hours, is one of the most important signals promoting sleep. The longer you've been awake, the more adenosine builds up, creating increasing sleep pressure that makes sleep feel necessary and inevitable. Adenosine works by binding to receptors in the brain, inhibiting the wake-promoting neurons and making way for sleep-promoting systems to take over. This is why, even if you're experiencing some difficulty falling asleep right now, you can trust that sleep pressure is building, adenosine is accumulating, and the drive to sleep is growing stronger.
You don't need to create this pressure or make it happen. It's a natural consequence of having been awake. The longer you rest, even if not yet sleeping, the stronger the sleep pressure becomes until eventually sleep becomes irresistible. Another crucial player in the neurochemistry of sleep is melatonin, often called the sleep hormone. Produced by the pineal gland in response to darkness, melatonin doesn't cause sleep directly, but rather signals to the body that night has arrived and it's time for sleep. Melatonin levels begin to rise in the evening, reach their peak in the middle of the night, and then decline toward morning. Your body is already producing melatonin now, shifting your internal biochemistry toward sleep. This isn't something you need to manage or control. Your pineal gland knows exactly what to do based on complex signals from your circadian rhythm, your eye's detection of light and darkness, and other temporal cues. Trust in this ancient system, refined over countless generations, to do its work. As the brain transitions toward sleep, inhibitory neurotransmitters become more prominent. GABA, or gamma-aminobutyric acid, is the primary inhibitory neurotransmitter in the brain, essentially quieting neural activity. GABA is like a gentle brake on the nervous system, slowing down the rapid firing of neurons that characterizes wakefulness. Many medications that promote sleep work by enhancing the effects of GABA, but your brain naturally increases GABA activity as part of the sleep onset process. Serotonin, often associated with mood and well-being, also plays important roles in sleep regulation. It serves as a precursor to melatonin and helps regulate sleep-wake cycles. During the day, serotonin helps maintain wakefulness, but it also facilitates the transitions between sleep stages during the night. The serotonin system is beautifully balanced, supporting both optimal wakefulness and optimal sleep, depending on what's needed. The hypothalamus, a small but mighty structure deep in the brain, contains specialized groups of neurons that act as a sleep-wake switch. Sleep-promoting neurons in the ventrolateral preoptic nucleus become more active as sleep approaches, while wake-promoting neurons in other areas become less active. This switch mechanism helps ensure that transitions between sleep and wake are relatively rapid and complete, rather than getting stuck in some intermediate state. As this switch tips toward sleep, widespread changes ripple throughout the brain. The thalamus, which during wakefulness acts as a relay station for sensory information, begins to gate sensory input more strictly. This is why external sounds and sensations become less noticeable as you drift toward sleep. Your thalamus is progressively filtering out information that's not urgent, allowing the brain to disengage from the external environment. The prefrontal cortex, seat of executive function and conscious decision-making, gradually reduces its activity. This is experienced subjectively as a loosening of voluntary control, a decreased ability to direct thoughts or maintain focus. Rather than being a problem, this is exactly what needs to happen for sleep to occur. The executive control that serves us so well during waking hours must step aside to allow sleep's automatic processes to unfold. Meanwhile, deeper brain structures, the pons, the medulla, the basal forebrain, increase their influence. These ancient parts of the brain, sometimes called the reptilian brain, govern basic functions and have been regulating sleep since long before mammals evolved complex cortices. They don't need instructions from your conscious mind. They operate on instinct and ancient programming. The release of growth hormone from the pituitary gland increases during deep sleep, facilitating tissue repair and growth. The immune system becomes more active in certain ways during sleep, producing cytokines that help fight infection and inflammation. The glymphatic system, the brain's waste clearance system, becomes more active during sleep, flushing out metabolic waste products that accumulated during waking hours. All of these processes are reasons why sleep is so essential, and they're all initiated automatically as part of the neurological cascade of relaxation and sleep onset. Your brain temperature is also dropping slightly, part of the normal circadian rhythm that facilitates sleep. This cooling of the brain is associated with decreased metabolic activity and increased readiness for sleep.
Positive psychology and gratitude before sleep. The psychological state with which we approach sleep has profound effects on sleep quality. Going to bed while ruminating on problems, dwelling on negative experiences, or feeling anxious about tomorrow tends to maintain nervous system arousal that interferes with sleep. Conversely, cultivating positive emotions and a sense of contentment before sleep can facilitate the relaxation necessary for easy sleep onset and restful sleep throughout the night. Positive psychology, a relatively recent branch of psychological science, focuses on what makes life worth living, on strengths, virtues, positive emotions, and factors that promote well-being and flourishing. While much of psychology has traditionally focused on problems and pathology, positive psychology asks different questions. What makes people thrive? What contributes to happiness and life satisfaction? How can we cultivate more positive experiences and emotions? One of the most robust findings from positive psychology is the power of gratitude. Gratitude, the practice of acknowledging and appreciating the good things in life, has been linked to numerous benefits, including improved mood, better physical health, stronger relationships, and notably, better sleep. People who regularly practice gratitude report falling asleep more easily and sleeping longer and more soundly than those who don't. The mechanism behind gratitude's sleep benefits likely involves several factors. First, gratitude is incompatible with negative rumination. When we're actively appreciating the good in our lives, we're not dwelling on problems or worries. Second, gratitude generates positive emotions, contentment, joy, peace, that are associated with parasympathetic nervous system activation. Third, gratitude helps put problems in perspective, reminding us that even when challenges exist, there are also good things happening in our lives. As you lie here preparing for sleep, you might gently reflect on your day, not analyzing or evaluating it, but simply noticing moments that contained something good. These don't have to be dramatic or significant things. Often, the most reliable sources of gratitude are the small, ordinary gifts we usually overlook: a warm shower, a comfortable bed, a kind word from someone, a task completed, a moment of laughter or beauty. Perhaps there was a moment today when you felt connected to someone, a friend, family member, colleague, or even a stranger. Human connection is one of the most fundamental sources of well-being, and any moment of authentic connection is worth acknowledging. It might have been a meaningful conversation, or just a smile exchanged, or the comfort of being in someone's presence. Whatever form it took, you can appreciate it now, allowing yourself to feel gratitude for that connection. Maybe there was a moment of simple pleasure, the taste of food you enjoyed, the warmth of sunlight, the comfort of sitting down after standing, the satisfaction of stretching your body. These small physical pleasures are easy to take for granted, but they represent moments when life felt good, when your needs were being met, when you experienced ease or enjoyment. Each one is a small gift worth acknowledging. Perhaps you accomplished something today, even something minor. You got through another day, navigated its challenges, took care of necessary tasks. It's easy to focus on what wasn't completed, what didn't go perfectly. But there's also value in acknowledging what you did do, what you did handle. Every challenge you faced, you somehow found a way through. That resilience, that persistence is worth recognizing with appreciation.
Perhaps there were moments of learning or growth, times when you gained new understanding or developed a skill, even slightly. Every day offers opportunities to learn, and when we notice and appreciate these moments, we reinforce the positive aspects of growth and development. Learning doesn't always feel good in the moment. It can involve confusion or mistakes, but looking back, we can appreciate that we're different, perhaps slightly more knowledgeable or capable than we were yesterday. There might have been moments of beauty or wonder, something in nature that caught your eye, a piece of music that moved you, an idea that sparked your imagination. These moments of aesthetic or intellectual engagement are nourishment for the soul, breaks from the practical demands of daily life. They remind us that life contains more than just tasks and problems. It also contains beauty, meaning, and wonder. You might feel gratitude for your body, which carries you through each day, which breathes without you thinking about it, which heals itself when injured, which has the capacity to experience pleasure and to rest. Bodies are remarkably resilient and capable, even when they're not perfect, even when they have limitations or challenges. The very fact that your body is now preparing itself for sleep, orchestrating countless processes to facilitate rest and restoration, is worthy of appreciation. And you might feel gratitude for the opportunity to rest, for having a safe place to sleep, for not having to remain vigilant through the night. In many times and places throughout history, sleep has been precarious, vulnerable. The fact that you can lie down in relative safety and comfort is not a small thing. It represents countless elements of fortune and circumstance that have aligned to make this rest possible. This reflection on gratitude isn't about forcing yourself to feel grateful when you don't, or about denying real problems and challenges in your life. It's simply about acknowledging that alongside difficulties, there are also gifts, that life contains both challenges and blessings, and that we have some choice about where we place our attention. Choosing to notice and appreciate the good, especially before sleep, creates a psychological state more conducive to rest. Positive psychology research has also identified other practices that promote well-being and can positively affect sleep. Savoring, the practice of fully experiencing and extending positive moments, helps us extract more satisfaction from good experiences. Instead of rushing through pleasant moments or immediately moving on to the next thing, savoring involves pausing, noticing details, and allowing ourselves to fully feel the positive emotions that arise. You can practice savoring right now with the experience of rest itself. Notice how it feels to be lying down, to not have to be anywhere or do anything. Notice the comfort of the bed supporting your body, the softness of blankets or sheets, the freedom from demand. Allow yourself to fully appreciate this simple pleasure of rest, to savor the fact that you don't have to be in motion, that you can simply be still and present. Acts of kindness, another focus of positive psychology research, also contribute to well-being and can positively affect sleep. Reflecting on moments when you acted with kindness or compassion towards others, or when others were kind to you, can generate warm, positive feelings that are conducive to rest. These don't have to be grand gestures. Often, it's the small acts of consideration, patience, or generosity that matter most. Maybe today you were patient with someone who was struggling, or you listened when someone needed to talk, or you helped in some small way. Maybe you were kind to yourself, treating yourself with compassion when you made a mistake or faced a difficulty. These acts of kindness, whether directed towards others or yourself, reflect the best parts of human nature, and reflecting on them before sleep can leave you feeling good about who you are and how you move through the world. Optimism, the tendency to expect positive outcomes, has also been linked to better sleep. This doesn't mean denying that bad things can happen or pretending everything will be perfect. It means maintaining a general expectation that things will work out, that you'll be able to handle what comes, that tomorrow offers possibilities along with challenges. This optimistic orientation helps reduce anxiety and rumination, making it easier for the nervous system to relax into sleep. You can cultivate a gentle optimism about tomorrow, trusting that you'll be able to meet whatever the day brings, that you have the resources and resilience to handle challenges, that there will be moments of goodness and connection along with whatever difficulties arise. This isn't naive positivity. It's a realistic confidence in your ability to cope, grounded in the fact that you've made it through every difficult day you've faced so far. The practice of self-compassion, treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding you'd offer a good friend, is another element of positive psychology that supports
existential calm, finding peace with being. There's a deeper dimension to the psychology of sleep that touches on some of the most fundamental questions of human existence. Who are we when we're not doing anything? What remains when we stop striving, planning, worrying, managing? What does it mean to simply be without purpose or goal? These might seem like strange questions to ask in the context of falling asleep, but actually they're intimately related to the process of letting go that sleep requires. Existential psychology explores questions of meaning, purpose, freedom, and the nature of human existence. While existential concerns often focus on making choices and creating meaning during waking life, there's also an existential dimension to sleep, to the daily practice of surrendering control, releasing identity, and trusting in a process beyond our conscious direction. Every night when we sleep, we practice a kind of dying, not literal death, but a temporary death of the ego, the conscious self. We let go of who we think we are, of all our concerns and identities and roles, the business executive, the parent, the artist, the worrier, the planner. All these identities dissolve in sleep. We become something more fundamental, more basic, just a breathing body, just consciousness itself, just being. This daily practice of existential death, if we can call it that, is both necessary and challenging. It's necessary because consciousness needs rest. The ego needs to release its constant vigilance and control. But it's challenging because there's something vulnerable, even frightening, about letting go so completely. What if we lose ourselves and don't come back? What if we let go and something terrible happens while we're unconscious? These fears, usually unconscious, can prevent deep surrender to sleep. But consider this. You've performed this daily death and rebirth thousands of times in your life. Every night, you release your grip on waking consciousness, allow your sense of self to dissolve, drift into dreams and deep sleep where your normal identity doesn't exist. And every morning, you return. Consciousness emerges again, the ego reforms. You remember who you are and take up again the threads of your life. This process is so reliable, so consistent, that you can trust it completely. There's something profound in this daily rhythm, this letting go and returning, this dissolution and reformation. It mirrors larger cycles of existence, the way everything in nature moves through cycles of activity and rest, growth and dormancy, life and death and new life. Sleep connects us to these fundamental rhythms, reminds us that we're part of nature, subject to the same basic patterns that govern all living things. From an existential perspective, one of our deepest human needs is to feel that our existence matters, that we have meaning and purpose. Much of waking life is spent in activities that reinforce this sense of mattering: working, creating, relating to others, pursuing goals. But sleep requires us to temporarily release all of that, to acknowledge that for these hours we don't need to matter in any active way. We can simply be without producing, without achieving, without justifying our existence through doing. This can be difficult for people who derive their sense of worth primarily from productivity and achievement. Lying in bed doing nothing can feel wrong, wasteful, even anxiety-provoking. If I'm not doing something, am I still valuable? If I'm not accomplishing anything, what's the point? These questions, often unconscious, can create resistance to the passive state that sleep requires. The answer from existential psychology is that being itself has intrinsic value, apart from any doing. You don't need to earn the right to exist through constant activity. Your fundamental nature, the simple fact of being here, of being conscious, of experiencing life, has value in itself. Sleep is a reminder of this, a daily practice of being without doing, of existing without justifying that existence through productivity. When you allow yourself to fully rest, to truly let go of all striving and managing and controlling, you touch something essential about your nature. Beneath all the roles and identities and activities, there's simply this: awareness, presence, being. It was there before you developed all your various identities, and it will remain after you release them. It's the most fundamental aspect of who you are, and it needs nothing from you except recognition and allowance. This existential dimension of sleep also relates to the question of control. So much of human anxiety stems from the desire to control outcomes, to manage circumstances, to ensure that things go the way we want them to go. We plan, we worry, we try to anticipate and prepare for every contingency. This urge to control is understandable. It's an attempt to create safety in an uncertain world. But it's also exhausting and ultimately impossible. There's so much we simply cannot control. Sleep requires us to release control, to surrender to a process that's beyond our conscious management. We can't make ourselves sleep through force of will. We can create conditions that make sleep more likely, but the actual transition from waking to sleeping is something that happens to us, not something we do. This surrender of control can be difficult, especially for people who are used to managing every aspect of their lives. But there's also liberation in this surrender. When we acknowledge that we can't control everything, when we allow ourselves to trust in processes beyond our conscious direction, we experience a kind of freedom. We're released from the exhausting burden of trying to manage everything. We can let go, trusting that some things will take care of themselves, that not everything requires our conscious intervention. The philosopher Alan Watts spoke about how humans are the only animals that have trouble falling asleep, precisely because we try to make it happen rather than allowing it to. A cat doesn't lie down thinking, "I really need to sleep now. I should be falling asleep. Why aren't I asleep yet?" The cat simply rests, and sleep comes naturally when conditions are right. We could learn from this, could approach sleep more like the cat, just resting, just being, letting sleep arrive in its own time, without anxiety about when that will be. This relates to what existential psychologists call acceptance of what is, the ability to be with reality as it actually is, rather than constantly fighting against it or wishing it were different. You're awake right now. Okay, what's that like? Can you be interested in the experience of being awake at night rather than fighting against it? Can you notice the quality of darkness, the sensations in your body, the flow of thoughts,
without judging any of it as wrong or problematic. There's also something existentially significant about the darkness and silence of nighttime. In our modern world, we're constantly stimulated, constantly connected, rarely truly alone with ourselves without external demands or distractions. Night offers a natural opportunity for solitude, for being alone with our own consciousness without distractions. This can be uncomfortable. We might prefer the distraction, but it's also valuable, this facing of oneself in silence and darkness. Some spiritual and philosophical traditions speak of a void, an emptiness that's at the heart of existence. This can sound negative, but actually this emptiness is described as peaceful, even blissful. It's empty of striving, of conflict, of the constant grasping and aversion that characterizes much of waking consciousness. Sleep takes us into a kind of void, a space where the normal contents of consciousness dissolve. We can embrace this rather than fear it, can welcome this daily return to this fundamental emptiness out of which all experience arises. The meaning we make of our lives is important. The purposes we pursue matter, but they exist against this background of fundamental being that doesn't need meaning or purpose to be valuable. Sleep reconnects us with this dimension, reminds us that beneath all our busyness and striving, there's simply this: existence, consciousness, the basic fact of being alive. And that's enough. It's always been enough. It will always be enough. There's a profound peace in accepting this, in releasing the constant need to do and achieve and matter through our actions. You matter simply because you exist. Your being has value independent of any.
The night continues around you, quiet and still. Hours pass. Though time has no meaning in sleep, your brain moves through its cycles, from light sleep to deep sleep to REM and back again, each stage serving its essential purpose. Memories are consolidated. Emotions are processed. The body repairs and restores itself, all without any conscious effort or awareness from you. Dreams come and go, carrying you through landscapes impossible in waking life, showing you images and scenarios that your conscious mind could never create, processing the day's experiences in symbolic form. Sometimes you're aware of dreaming, sometimes not. Sometimes the dreams are vivid and memorable. Sometimes they fade instantly upon waking. All of it is part of the natural process, part of sleep's important psychological work. Your breathing continues, steady and slow, automatic and perfect. Your heart beats on, requiring no conscious direction, knowing exactly what to do. Every system in your body works through the night, maintaining and restoring, preparing you for the next day. This is what sleep is. Not just unconsciousness, but an active process of restoration that's as essential to life as breathing or eating. And you remain, throughout the night, fundamentally safe. The concerns that occupied your waking mind have been set aside. They'll be there tomorrow if you need to address them. But for now, for these hours, you're free from them. You're free to simply be, to simply rest, to allow sleep to work its ancient magic of restoration and renewal. the world continues outside your sleeping awareness. The earth turns, the stars move across the sky. The night gradually yields toward morning. But you're safe inside this cocoon of sleep, this protected space where consciousness has retreated to do its essential work of rest and restoration. Nothing can disturb you here, in the deep rest of sleep, in this necessary withdrawal from the waking world. As the night progresses and morning approaches, your sleep naturally becomes lighter. You spend more time in REM sleep, the stage of vivid dreaming, and less in the deep, slow wave sleep that characterized the early part of the night. This is the natural rhythm, the way sleep has been structured over millions of years of evolution. Your body knows the pattern, follows it automatically, prepares itself for the eventual return to waking consciousness. But that return is still hours away. For now, there's only sleep, only rest, only the deep, restorative process that makes tomorrow possible. Your mind and body are doing exactly what they need to do, exactly what they're designed to do. And you don't need to do anything. Don't need to think anything. Don't need to be aware of any of this. You can simply rest in the deep sleep you've earned through the day's activities. The sleep you deserve. The sleep that will restore you and prepare you for whatever tomorrow brings. Sleep on peacefully and deeply.
The neuroscience of relaxation. Deep beneath conscious awareness, a symphony of neurochemical and neurological processes orchestrates the transition from wakefulness to sleep. Understand
The night continues around you, quiet and still.